Okay, folks, so I'm going to do standard bread pudding and leave the persimmon bread pudding and white chocolate for another time. I toasted 1-inch cubes of my challah, around 12 ounces, because I'm only making around 6 or 8 individual size bread puddings. And I'll be using, instead of ramekins, I'll be using these super oversized muffin pans because I think they turn out really well. And what I want to do is put my toasted challah, could have been brioche, but what you really want is an enriched bread with, you know, eggs and butter, and both brioche and challah are share those characteristics. And this recipe calls for 12 ounces, and it turns out that's 2/3 of my bread, and my bread was fresh. I made it last night. So I toasted in the oven for 5 minutes, and I have all this leftover, which we don't need. Put it aside, and I think it's, the bread goes aside. I might need a bigger bowl for the next steps. But first thing we gotta notice is that I've been like grating my nutmeg by hand, which I always do. And I need a 1/4 teaspoon and some cinnamon. But the first thing we need is 2 cups of cream, because we're making a custard. Guess what? Like almost 95% of Euro-American desserts are made with custard. This is a custard that we will not cook in the oven. I mean, we'll not cook on the stove top. We'll cook it in the bread. So that's, oh, I want 3 cups of heavy cream. That's quite a lot. Hope I have enough for my bourbon sauce. Where's the next cup? Okay. And I got that going on in there. Turn that on to medium. But I made 2 cups of milk. I'll remove my nutmeg. Hopefully I have enough scratched up there without scratching my knuckles. But basically we're doing sorry. That wasn't really intended. We want 2 cups, 3 cups of cream, 2 cups of milk to come to a simmer. We don't want it to boil. And in the meantime, I'll be making, this is a kind of reverse custard. We'll be doing a bowl here, 4 eggs, 1, 2, 3. It's kind of interesting. That's 3, obviously. 4. I don't know. Oh, it's bigger than the other. It's going to be 4 plus 1 yolk. So I guess do the whole one, the bigger one. Produces more liquid. And this one is going to be, I'll do it off camera, a yolk. 4 eggs and 1 yolk. Doing it in my hands and wash them. Going to need to whisk that. And I'm going to want to add the sugar. So, this is a custard. It's just a kind of inverted method. So I'll do 1 cup of sugar. And by inverted, I know you're gonna ask me, it just means that like normally you would cook, sometimes, not normally, but sometimes you cook the eggs in a double boiler and then add the cream and then add the cream and the egg mixture back into the cream. And I'm not using a double boiler, not broiler. Okay, so there's that. 1 cup sugar. And let's get that going. Using my handy whisk, I'm going to add the quarter teaspoon of my freshly grated nutmeg. So basically, instead of adding, you know, the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients, we only have wet ingredients. The bread is the dry ingredient. And then we're going to do a 1/2 teaspoon of, let's see how, wait, I think I need an entire tablespoon of vanilla. That's quite a lot, but we have a lot of eggs and we have quite a lot of cream and milk, like very much. If I find that there's too much milk per bread ratio, I have extra bread cut up. So we're gonna whisk that together. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And I think I need cinnamon, but only a 1/2 teaspoon. And I'm leaving out the raisins, which is traditional. Raisins are traditional, but the thing is, they are also divisive. And I find that when I add my bourbon sauce, no one gives a damn about. Okay, here we go, cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon. No one really cares about the raisins. It's not like people miss raisins. The thing is, lots of people don't remember to put boiling water on their raisins to plump them up, knowing that later they will be cooked down. And you end up with little rocks in your teeth because raisins are dried and then you cook them and you bake them and they become drier and drier until they're a little bit, well, like rocks. So the fact is that raisins are good, but you have to remember to plump them up with boiling water or alcohol or whatever you do. But, you know, you're rehydrating them just so that they can be dehydrated again. And in this case, I know no one will care because I have a lot of crusty bread for crunch. And I guess that's really the reason you want interest. You don't want, no, you don't want just a bland bread mass. Probably why you would want raisins. But I have a lot of toasty bread. Anyway, so this needs to come to just before a boil, and I'll be right back. Okay, friends, we've reached that stage where the custard has cooled and the bread has soaked. And I don't want it to soak too much or else you'll just have nothingness. So there's a little steam coming off, but I can touch it, so it's not so bad. So I'm using a slotted spoon. I'm gonna put the challah pieces into my giant muffin pans. I use these pans because I think that result looks really good for individual portions. And my goal here is to get 8 individual portions. I might have a little extra bread, in which case I'll make, you know, more. But I haven't filled all these to the top yet. So I'll just, oh, by the way, I buttered these things quite extensively. I want to get them to the top, but I don't want them to poke out of the top much, because you'll get these burned pieces of bread. And the custard will inflate a bit because there's, you know, it's eggs. Okay, that's a bit too much. Let's see, I don't want to, let's see. Oh, obviously these don't have enough. You know, you have to use your judgment. I'm using the slotted spoon because I want to put the bread in first, and then I'll use a different implement. I don't, you know, it always smells good when you're starting out, but it smells better when you bake it. Okay, so let's just see. So I have these filled to the top with bread, soaked bread soaked in custard. I have my slotted spoon, and so that means I have, well, this last one might not be good enough, so I'm not gonna waste this last little what do you call it, muffin-y thing, muffin scenario, and therefore I'm just going to share it among, that's 6 and that's 7. Good enough for me. And then we're going to, and this one, I guess I'll just be washing out a little egg custard at some point, doing the dishes. Let's then coat these to the top with the uncooked custard. You don't have to use all of it. If you use all of it, you're gonna have an overflow. But it does have most of the flavor. Obviously, using challah or brioche is pretty spectacular with respect to flavor. Okay, so I have quite a bit left over, but I'm not afraid of that. I just want to punch down. I just want to make sure everything's good here. And the oven's been preheated to 350. Obviously, I don't really need an entire tray here, but waste not, want not. And I put these on a sheet pan in case they overflow, but I highly doubt they will. If you're using ramekins, you want to do, ramekins are, I would get it out of my cupboard right now, but it would knock the camera down. but you would want to do a bain-marie. Or if you put the bread pudding all in one square pan or rectangular pan, which you could, obviously, I mean, that's how it's often done. Then you cut it up and then you put your sauce on. You also want to do that in a bain-marie, which is where you cradle the puddings, the pans in boiling water after you put them in the oven or before putting them in the oven. So I shall see you in 25 minutes. I'll be checking. Okay, folks, so my bread puddings are in the oven at 350, and let's put this, I got some simmering water here. Well, it was simmering. We're gonna have some fun and make, it's not a caramel. It's just bourbon sauce, but it's quite close to being a caramel. It's actually more like a butterscotch. So we're gonna take 1 whole cup. Here's my little gingerbread sugar saver. 1 whole cup, and my sugar saver has worked nicely, and we're gonna pack it in 1 packed cup. Of course, I'm making a mess. Sorry, guys and gals and all the peeps. So I got 1/2 cup of sugar, brown sugar, dark brown sugar. Obviously, dark brown sugar is just another more molassesy sugar than light brown, but we're making a nice sauce, and I don't see the water simmering yet. Okay, so we're gonna do 2 large egg yolks, and by the way, I'm using a glass bowl that fits over my simmering water, because we're going to do this like as though we're making a ganache. Oh shoot, I made a mistake. Okay, I was talking. Gonna get rid of the whites. Okay, I got rid of a lot of it. I made, it's not like you can really go wrong. Well, you can go wrong, but, you know. We want 2 large egg yolks. I'm doing this off camera with my hands. There's an egg yolk. And we're going to, basically, everything goes into this bowl. And we simmer it. Let's get those simmering water. That's like a makeshift double boiler. And they can tell because there's no water on the bottom. And I have the candy thermometer because we don't want it to turn into caramel. And we're not making butterscotch. We're doing something in between. Just keep that in your noggin. I'll try. And I guess all I need now is the butter. This is a 1/2 stick of butter, which is 58 grams. I guess that's where you get your idea of the butterscotch. Let's just put it in there so it heats up a bit, and then I'll add some delicious vanilla and the bourbon. I'll be right back with the vanilla, which I just put away. So I have the vanilla. It's vanilla extract, obviously, and it's, if you know me, you know that it's natural and not in any way artificial. And then we're going to do a 1/4 cup of bourbon. And while I'm back here doing the bourbon, and look, it's kind of like a shooter in New York City. Anyway, we got the bourbon, you can put this all together all at once. 1/4 cup of, anyway, this bourbon is actually Tennessee whiskey, also known as JD. There's no significant difference. Well, yeah, but not in baking. Okay, so we're just gonna whisk this up. As we know, the boiler's simmering, and we're gonna, you can see that there's pieces of butter that aren't melted. You know, you can make caramel in many ways, and you can make it with bourbon many ways, but this is actually one of the easiest ways, because it's not really going to be caramel, it's a sauce. So you can tell that the butter's melting, and we just don't want it to turn into hard candy. So we put in our candy thermometer. Mine doesn't really like the glass bowl, so I'll just wedge it on the edge. Keep stirring. Smells great. Oh, and everything's melted. I don't know if you can see that. It's a nice thick bourbon-y sauce, and I just want to make sure I know what temperature I don't want to surpass, because this entire little chemistry episode is about temperature, because I don't want to make candy. Oh, hold on. I'll check it out. I don't want it to go past 160, and it's only at 100. The reason I'm checking the temperature is because it either just turns out to be a bunch of butter and bourbon flavored butter, or a sauce. And if you go further than 160, it becomes candy, soft, hard, or burnt. So we're just gonna do this until it's, let's see, 160 degrees. I'll be back when it is. Thanks for waiting, folks. It's been about 45 minutes, and I'm taking the bread puddings out because they're nicely browned, but they're not boring. Okay, this one got a little toasty, but I think it will still be good. And I just like to add that nothing spilled over. So I have nowhere else to put that. I'll put it back in the oven. And I made an error. Okay, so I'm turning off the oven. Just want you all to know that my bourbon sauce is nice and thick, but it's not a caramel. It's somewhere, somewhere in between But we don't, oh my man, sorry. I had the hiccups. Anyway, so it's somewhere in between. It's gonna be really nice. And there's no point in using this as a drizzle. Smells so good. Until these have cooled down. Turn on the fan now. These will cool down, and I'll show you a result. The main thing with this is it didn't crystallize, and that's why we like it.